Welcome to the League of Women Voters Candidates Forum for the contested races for the Batavia Library Board and School Board races. I am Kelly Rotella, representing the Voter Services Committee for the League of Women Voters in Central Kane County, and I live in St. Charles. First of all, thank you to Batavia City Hall for once again opening your doors for us and helping us in our mission to educate voters in this election. This forum is designed to focus specifically on the contested races. I would like to take a moment to clarify our empty chair policy. This ensures that we do not hold forums in which only one candidate is in attendance. In the case of only one candidate's participation, the candidate will have the opportunity to offer a brief introductory statement of up to 3 minutes. However, we are very fortunate that tonight all the races are represented. That makes those statements unnecessary. The candidates who are present here tonight have all signed and agreed to the format and media policies established by the League of Women Voters. And we have proactively gathered questions in advance from the community and are also welcoming questions from tonight's audience. Please look for our volunteers who are circulating. They have note cards ready to go to get your questions. The questions will be reviewed by trained League members for clarity and relevance. While we may not be able to address every question during our time allotted, I encourage you to reach out directly to the candidates should your questions go unasked. This evening's event is being live streamed and recorded by Audrey Karff with our local Batavia cable access station, BATV. And the recording will be shared on the websites of the League of Women Voters of Central Kane County, BATV, and the Illinois Voter Guide. Our moderator tonight is Barbara Lymans from the League of Women Voters in Wheaton, and I think it's time to get started. Thank you, Moderator Lymans.
Thank you, Kelly. As Kelly said, I'm a member of the Wheaton League of Women Voters and live in West Chicago, so I will not be able to vote for any of the candidates participating in this evening's forums. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that neither supports nor opposes candidates or parties for any office. Providing forums is a major mission of the League of Women Voters so citizens can become better informed about the issues facing their community and to become better acquainted with the candidates running for office. The format tonight is a candidate forum and not a debate. Candidates are expected to accurately represent the facts, and their responses reflect their own views and opinions. We do hope the candidates will speak to their goals and plans and refrain from speaking about another candidate or what another candidate has or has not done. The candidates will begin in alphabetical order with their 2-minute opening statements, and then they'll alternate the order in which they answer questions for 1 minute. After the question portion of the forum, each candidate will give a 2-minute closing statement. Members of the League will act as timers. Should a candidate exceed the time limit, I will ask them to finish their sentence and move on to the next candidate. To our audience, I would ask you, those here in attendance, to please turn off your cell phones and other electronic devices. I would also ask you to be respectful and refrain from applauding or in any other ways demonstrating support or opposition of a candidate. And finally, to the candidates, I would like to say on behalf of everyone here how appreciative we are that you are not only willing to serve in office, but that you agreed to be here tonight. So let's get started. Candidate Fasano, you have 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Thank you, League of Women Voters, for sponsoring this forum and to the community for coming out tonight, especially in this rain. My name is Mary Ann Fasano. I'm a Batavia resident for 35 years and an incumbent for 3 years and 8 months. I was a business owner offering media relations and communication services to numerous national clients for 40 plus years. The library's vast array of resources were indispensable to my business. Its trove of crime fiction offered a welcome break from business demands. Help and encouragement from various librarians kept me going when I transitioned from a DOS system to the first iteration of Windows. The accessibility of information that I experienced is absolutely essential for every user. It's the key mission of the library. All must have the information they need, regardless of age, education, ethnicity, language, income, physical limitations, or geographic barriers. It means that they are able to obtain information in a variety of formats, electronic as well as print. I'm also very excited about the renovation of the library. After laying much groundwork and careful stewardship of the budget, we are positioned to start that process. I look forward to assisting with an effort that will result in a better experience for all users.
Thank you. Candidate Ford, you have 2 minutes.
Hi, my name is Christy Ford. While my husband and I were looking for our forever place, we happened on the Batavia Public Library, and we fell in love with it. To have a thriving library in downtown Batavia, a thriving community in itself, we were so excited. The first thing we did after signing paperwork for us to be able to buy a home was go down 31 and stop at the Batavia Public Library and get a library card. We were so excited about that. I want future generations to also be excited whenever they get the chance to have a Batavia Public Library card. We as a board are working to bring the Batavia Public Library into the future. While guaranteeing financial security for the next 20 years, my goal is to have a thriving library for the next hundreds of years. However, I only have the control over the next 20 years and will be doing everything I can to achieve that. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Hubbard, your 2 minutes.
Good evening. I'm Catherine Hubbard, also known as Kathy, and I've been a Batavia resident since 1980. I taught second and third grade at H.C. Storm School. I started in 1978 when they built Storm, so I'm effectively as old as the brick. Some of my qualifications include a bachelor's and master's and continuing ed credits from Northern Illinois University in education, reading, and administration. I'm the past vice president and president of the Batavia Education Association. I belong to 2 book groups, one that was started at our church 35 years ago, and one that I started when I retired, and we are 20 people strong. It's former colleagues and friends from Storm School. I've been an avid reader since I can remember. I am in so much support of the Batavia Public Library and know it as one of my first friends when I first moved to Batavia. My father was career military, and because of that, we moved over 30 times during my childhood. And often I didn't meet any other kids or have any friends in the neighborhood for a while, so the library became my friend. When I moved to Batavia in 1980, it became my friend then. I also am was a colleague with Dan Russo when he did the Speak Up program that initiated comments from the Batavia public about what we could do to best improve our library. And because of that, we passed a very successful referendum. As an anecdote, one of my former students is the former chairman of the Board of Trustees in Batavia. I'm looking forward to being another trustee again. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Lowe, your 2 minutes.
It's amazing how it's nerve-wracking every time I do this. Good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Lowe. My wife, Jill, and I have called Batavia home for 23 years. I'm a recovering architect, stay-at-home dad, and now an empty nester with 2 kids who thrived in Batavia's public schools and are now in college. I've dedicated the last 2 decades to serving this community, from organizing playgroups, often at the library, and volunteering in our schools, to serving on the school board and helping launch initiatives like Watchdogs program and the Batavia Community Diversity Initiative. I believe in the power of community and the importance of inclusive, accessible spaces. The library has played a significant role in my life since I was in 6th grade, growing up in the northwest suburb of Wheeling. When the librarians there helped me with a research project on the town I grew up in, that project ended up being submitted to the local historical society. The experience taught me the library isn't just a place for books. It's a place for connection, learning, and opportunity. Today, I see the library as one of the last free third spaces, a vital resource for education, entertainment, and community building. If elected to the Board of Trustees, I will bring my proven leadership, my commitment to fiscal responsibility, and my passion for ensuring the library meets the needs of all Batavia residents. Together, we can ensure the library remains a beacon of inclusivity and opportunity for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, the first question will begin with you, Candidate Ford. So it's an interesting question that I think is a great way to start out. What is the latest book you've read, and would you recommend that book? We'll wait until you come down and think before we start timing.
The Heaven and Earth grocery store was a recent one. I don't know if that was the very last one that I read. I am a part of a book club as well, and I selected that book for our book club. And I was able to get it because it was a pretty new release book, but I was able to get it at the Batavia Public Library through their book club bags. The book club bags have 7 copies in it, as well as questions, and it's just a wonderful resource that you can access through the library. But I'm sorry, the rest of the question,
No, that's okay. Would you recommend the book?
but I definitely, it's a very good book. And we're going to have James McBride on Zoom at the Batavia Public Library February 4th at 7 p.m. So you need to sign up and register for it. It's a great opportunity. Thank you.
So, Candidate Hubbard, what is your latest book that you've read, and would you recommend the book?
Funny you should ask. I just recently finished James, which is the story of Jim from Huckleberry Finn. It's probably one of the most interesting books I've ever read, and it made me go back and grab my copy of Huckleberry Finn off of our kids' bookshelf so that I could reread it. I also have just finished the Heaven and Earth grocery store, which both of my book groups reviewed, and we had quite mixed feelings on that one. I thought it was riveting, but at any rate, not everybody enjoyed it as much as I did. So I would have to say that recently the best book I have read would be James.
Candidate Lowe?
Recently, I've been using my reading as a form of escapism. For some reason, things have been going on and I need to find other worlds to live in for a while. So I've been reading Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb. I'm rereading the series. It is a wonderful series that has magic and pirates and ships. And if that's the type of thing that you like, I would highly recommend reading it.
And Candidate Fasano?
I am reading The Woman Who Smashed Coats, and I am so enamored of Elizabeth. I want to be her, but I don't have that aptitude, so I will not. And I would absolutely highly recommend the book. She is a product of Colonel Fabian, and it was she had a very interesting start to her career, but she is an incredible person with such a low-key manner, I think. And yes, if you want a good book, that is it. And it will be reviewed at Books Between Bites on February 15th, I believe. You do not have to sign up. You just come at noon with your lunch.
Great. So getting into the nitty-gritty now. The question is, we'll begin with Candidate Hubbard. Do you believe intergovernment relationships are an important priority for the board, and why?
Absolutely. I think it is integral to the function of the library. It's important for the library, for the trustees to develop relationships with peoples in the community and collaborate with them to make the library a more beneficial space or location for community members.
Great. Candidate Lowe?
Absolutely. One of the reasons that I'm running for library board is that I've already experienced the school board, and I understand the intersectionality between all of our government bodies, and I think it's important that the government bodies do more to communicate with one another in order to be more efficient for the taxpayers. There's opportunities for us to collaborate between our different jurisdictions so that we can provide a better return on the investment for all of our taxpayers.
Candidate Fasano?
Ask the question again, please.
Sure. Do you believe intergovernmental relationships are an important priority for the board, and why?
They absolutely are an important priority for the board. We recently completed a bicentennial report that detailed a totality of the programs, partnerships, and services that the library has. And many of those partnerships were with other governmental agencies. It's important to them, it's important to us, it's part of the connectedness of this community and the fabric of the library. I can't imagine that we would never have those.
Candidate Ford?
Oh, this is speaking something dear to my heart. Yes, I definitely do. While we were rewriting the policy for library cards, I proposed that we give every Batavia Public Library or Batavia Public School student a library card, because that's all about equality and diversity and inclusivity for everybody to be able to have a card. And it puts everybody on an equal level to where you don't want to have some students have the resources of the library, which is numerous, but you want everybody to be able to have it, whether they're in the district or not. And it would only apply to students, not the whole family. But I just feel like it's very important that we reach out to the school system and be able to provide library cards for them.
Okay. Candidate Lowe, we'll start with you. There's a couple of questions that really are wondering about how does the board plan, or does it have plans? Do you have plans to support programs for working parents and families?
Well, I'm not currently on the board, so I'm not privy to any plans that they have in place currently, but I do know that it is very important for me to reach out to the community and make sure that the voices that may not be heard often get heard, and to make sure that the Batavia suits the educational and desires and needs of our community. So I think that if there are programs that are in place that the community craves, I think that it is important that we strive to do everything that we can to meet those needs.
Thank you. Candidates Fasano, your thoughts about how does the board plan to support programs for working parents and families?
Our librarians, particularly those who are doing the programs for youth and adult services, I think are masterful at creating programs for all of our users. They look at, there's a preschool program, there's an early young child program, there's another program in between for another group of kids. Not having kids, I don't pay that much attention to it, but I do know there are various programs for various levels of youngsters, and they're held at different times so that families can be there and enjoy with their children. And they look at the data after a time to determine what has been attended, how well it's been attended, do people like those programs, and so on, that help them make additional recommendations and plan new programs.
Candidate Ford, what are your thoughts?
Oh, absolutely. I think we have a plethora of resources available to the youth. One, we have youth learning activities and classes, but we also have numerous databases that families can tap into. One is called Brain Fuse, and it's for struggling students in math, science, English, and specific assignments. They can also get tutoring through that. We also have all the A to Z databases, which covers A to Z USA, A to Z countries throughout the world, to where you can look and do the research on that. We also have Mango, to where you can learn how to speak a foreign language if you want. And the Illinois State Library e-resources just we were able to access their databases. So we have just so much available. And so it's all online 24/7, and it's a wonderful benefit.
Candidate Hubbard?
Ditto. I have participated in so many of those programs with my children and now my grandchildren, and many of them are on the weekends or later in the evenings, and they're very inclusive. We have a group for inclusion students that meets once a month, and some of my former students are involved in this, and it's such a wonderful opportunity for all of them, and they've been doing it for years. There's a lot offered. If you look at our website, you'll find that there are many, many opportunities beyond the day, or in the evenings when parents can come with their children, or, as I said, on Saturdays and sometimes Sundays. And we also do a lot of really interesting programs. Recently, we did something with animals, and the lion line to see these animals was out the door with parents and their children. So we have a lot of wonderful, wonderful programs.
Thank you. Candidate Fasano, and along the same line, is the library providing adequate meeting space for all types of community groups?
Oh, would that we had a dozen more. So there is a huge demand for meeting rooms, and we do our best. And the person responsible for handling that does her best to make it work and to accommodate the folks and groups who request those meeting rooms. We're seeing that our schedule is always full. We encourage you, if you are expecting to have a meeting, to ask early and fill out the form on the website so that you might get your chosen time and a meeting room. But could we use more? Yes, we could use more. Are we going to break out a wall in the building to get more? No.
Candidate Ford, your thoughts on the same question?
Well, we have spent the last year and a half, especially, working on our renovation project. And part of that, we've laid the groundwork. We've done community survey. We've done a capital asset study, which was information that we gathered from community leaders and also the staff. So we know we need more meeting rooms just with those two studies. But going forward, we are going to try and handle it to where we can have more meeting room, also study rooms. We have found those are very popular as well. So we know there's needs that need to be addressed, and we have the groundwork laid. So in the next 4 years, we hope to be able to address those and bring the library up into the future. Thank you.
Candidate Hubbard.
Space always seems to be a problem for various groups, and we use all of our rooms in the library to maximum potential. Because of the referendum that we passed, and because we are now looking at renovations on the library, we're hopeful that we will create more of those spaces and larger spaces, because it's very, very necessary. Book clubs meet in some of the spaces. Different activities with children use the spaces. We have some crafting groups that use the spaces. So it's definitely a need, and it's something that we've addressed and will be looking at in the future.
And Candidate Lowe.
I think it's a little bit of an unfair question just because it's one of the last free spaces that community members can gather. And so it's going to be high demand. As somebody who has had large groups there for Batavia Community Diversity Initiative projects, our community conversations about running for office, I've had groups there for the small meeting rooms, and I've gone there and done the little small cubbies. And sometimes I can get in, and sometimes there's a line. I think the library is doing as much as it can with the spaces that it has. I think with the upcoming renovations, there's an opportunity to make the spaces more efficient. And as a former architect, I think I can bring some expertise to make that happen. So hopefully we can work with the community and make things better.
Thank you. We have multiple questions on regarding the next topic. So we're going to start with Candidate Ford, and I'll use question that's all inclusive, so you can answer. How will you protect intellectual freedom of librarians and patrons, ensuring access to materials that include diverse perspectives, specifically health, reproductive rights, and books such as genderqueer?
Well, we subscribe to the ALA recommendations, which includes, and I'm going to have to read this because it's just too detailed and I can't remember it, but it's the Library Bill of Rights, including the freedom to read, freedom to view, and access to library resources and services for minors. To quote directly from the policy, these guiding documents protect the right of individual access to information, even when content may be controversial or unacceptable to others. Our mission is to provide access to information to all users. Now, when we adopted this, whenever we rewrote our policy to where we want people to be able to access the information that they seek and not be denied that ability to be able to access. Thank you.
Candidate Hubbard, your thoughts on the question?
Once again, I'm reiterating what Trustee Ford said. We do follow the ALA policy, American Library Association, and they passed something on January 1st with the guidelines that Christy outlined for us to follow, and we follow them very closely at our library.
And Candidate Lowe.
Not to sound like a broken record, but the experts have spoken on this, and I'm not a librarian. I don't curate books, but they do, and so I trust their judgment. And we have policies in place that protect the materials in the library. I think it's important that we reach out to the community to make sure that the materials represent everybody in the library. And I believe I was watching an old candidate forum where Mr. Russo said that if you don't have a collection that has something that is offensive to you, you're not doing your job.
Thank you. Candidate Fasano.
It's really hard to respond after everybody had said exactly what I was saying. But we absolutely do endorse and support the American Library Association's Library Bill of Rights. There is absolutely no question that that is paramount at the Batavia Library and for the board members. Our collection does reflect the various interests and needs of the community, and it follows the mission of the library to provide and ensure access to materials and services to meet your lifelong learning needs. You can have the access to information. It means you're free to exercise your right to know without fear of censorship or reprisal.
Thank you. So as a follow-up to that, how do you propose to handle residents then who want to ban books? And we'll start with Candidate Hubbard.
We have in fact handled those situations, and our librarians have been very considerate and courteous of the people who are motivated to ban books, but because of the ALA guidelines that we do follow quite extensively, we don't really believe in banning books and believe that there is free choice in terms of book selection or any kind of literature. So we very kindly tell them that thank you for your opinion, but we follow ALA.
Candidate Lowe.
I 100% support anybody's right to protest. If they disagree with the materials that are in the library, they can use their First Amendment right to lawfully protest about that. At the end of the day, the library policies dictate what happens. Personally, I would recommend that anybody who wants to ban a book, they should read it first. And so, get educated on it. If you just still decide that you want to ban the book, okay. But often I think you would find that the books aren't as offensive as you think.
And Candidate Fasano.
Here we go. I agree with everything. However, you should know that anyone who objects to some part of the collection, there is a formal process to, how shall I say that, to make that objection. And it's a form. I don't have it with me. You'll find it on the website. And if not, I will make sure that you get it if you would like it. And it goes through a series of recommendations and readings and reviews by the librarians, by our executive director on a final decision. So I think that, but as a trustee, I feel that I am bound to represent all citizens honestly and equally without deferring my responsibilities to any one person.
And Candidate Ford.
Many of you may not know, but January 1st, 2025, a law went into an effect that libraries are, it's actually illegal to ban books at this point. So the state of Illinois has passed that law last year, but the state of Illinois also grants grants to the Batavia Public Library. We receive $37,000 a year in that grant. And if we started banning books, we would lose access to that. That $37,000 goes directly towards the collection, providing books, the library things, and helps with databases, but it goes directly to the community as far as resources available. So we just feel like that's very important, and that's a very disincentivizing way to make us not ban books.
Can I add a coda to that, please?
In your closing statement, I would suggest you include that.
I'll do that then. Thank you.
So let's change gears.
Okay.
And the next question is, what kind of outside-the-box programming ideas do you have? And we'll start with candidate Lowe.
I'm a firm believer in building community, and I think we have an opportunity to build bridges between generations. I think that there are a lot of older folks who have a skill or ideas or knowledge that they could pass on. And I think we have a lot of younger folks who would like to learn it. And I think if we could put those groups together, we could build community, enhance our library, and do it at a lower cost. So I think that that is an opportunity to use the people power that we have in our community to make people feel needed, wanted, and use their skills.
Thank you. Candidate Fasano, what kind of outside-the-box programming ideas do you have?
One of them that I had is going to happen February 4th, and that is the state of Illinois and their I-Team something will be at the library from 2 to 6 p.m., showing all of us how we can trade in our old responders for our new sticker responders. If you'd like to come and bring your old responder, please do. Our librarians, I think, are incredibly creative at developing programs. I can't necessarily say that I am. I won't lay claim to that. But we have had a lot of success with many of our children's programs. Kathy mentioned that there was a line out the door. That's not the first time. There are other programs where there have been people waiting to get in. Our Books Between Bites, which is not just a library program, is always successful, always folks crowding the room.
Great, thank you. Candidate Ford, your outside-the-box programming ideas.
Well, two of the things that we'd like to address during the renovations is the makerspace and also the teen space. So we're excited about that. Also, last Sunday, I went to a one-act play at the library, and it was Louis Joliet. I can't say it the way he said it, perfect French, but it was wonderful. And he gave such a history lesson for us, and it was just enthralling to be able to watch it. So I kind of would like to see maybe some of that. And I think that's it.
Candidate Hubbard.
Gosh, we have so much creativity within our library, and people are constantly coming up with great ideas. As Christy said, they have the maker space and the teen space. They have something called Late Night at the Library, where the kids come and they do a scavenger hunt, and it's just marvelous. I was recently approached by a friend who's the director of a play. It's a feminist play, and she wants locations to perform, and I suggested that she bring it to our library. I'm sure that they would be very willing to stage that performance for her. Again, I said that the communication between the librarians and the people that work at the library and the community are so wonderful that I think we have a plethora of fabulous programs that are offered at our library that are very creative.
It sounds like you do. And so the next question fits right in. How would you help raise awareness about library services, collections, and these fantastic programs? And we're going to start with candidate Fasano.
We have realized that we need to further and more frequently and more abundantly, perhaps, communicate with the community about our program services and all that the library offers. Stepping up marketing efforts, stepping up social media efforts, stepping up all of our outreach efforts to various groups that we partner with, and even those that we don't. Our librarian, our executive director is doing a really good job of meeting with all community, civic, and social groups so that they are aware of what's going on at the library and that we can partner with all of those groups for future programs.
Candidate Ford?
Currently, I send out an email to my book club and I list all the events for the month. Well, not all the events, just the ones that I think are particularly interesting that might interest them. And I usually hear good feedback and they're on board. So that's just one small way. But we do outreach to organizations. Kathy and I, we have a senior luncheon that we do together, and she was able to arrange the library to come out to them. I'm sorry, I'm taking away your talking point.
Go right ahead.
And that's really interesting. Also, I got a group together, and we went to the library, and we just had a librarian talk to us about all that's available, and even our most frequent users of the library that I'm personal friends with, that they were surprised at some of the offerings. So it's something, if you want to get a group together, just make an appointment with the librarian. She'll put on a presentation for you.
Thank you. Candidate Hubbard?
Would you repeat the question, please?
Sure. How would you help raise awareness about library services, collections, and programs?
Well, as Christy said, we did have Joe, the director, and an assistant come and talk to our church group, our senior luncheon that we serve. And I know that Joe has gone to different organizations like the Rotary and the Lions Club and different groups in town and talked with them. And they do a lot of promoting within the school district. They send librarians out to talk to children in the schools, and then the children sometimes come and visit the library. So I think we're very visual in our community. I know one of my book clubs has been meeting here at the library, and as they mentioned, we have something called Books Between Bites, and they host different authors. And at one point, we got the gal who wrote Remarkably Bright Creatures to come and do a presentation at Books Between Bites for us. So it's a very, very successful program.
Candidate Lowe?
I think this is the $1 million question because every agency, government agency, group that I've been a part of, communication in today's world is really, really difficult, especially in a diverse community where everybody communicates in a different way. And the reality is there's no one way to do it. You have to have a multifaceted approach, which I believe the library currently does. But they could always do a better job. I think we need to reach out to the people where they're at and meet them where they're at. And since we now have a digital presence, we don't need people that necessarily come into the library every time. So I think there are opportunities for us to go out into underserved communities and meet them and find out how we can better serve them, and we can change our tactics to meet them. But there is no one way.
Well, we have time for one more question. And so the last question for you will be, what major challenges do you expect the library to face during the next 3 years? And we'll begin with candidate Ford.
It just seems like with all the libraries, it's funding. It's the financial part that is just a challenge for all the libraries. There's so much we want to do. There's so much we want to offer to the community, but funding is a problem. So we have done a community capital improvement program that will tell us how much money that we need to put forward to the improvement of the building for the next 20 years. We also did a funding for the future to find out how much money we can really expect to have and revenues for the next 20 years. So balancing that with the wants and the needs of the community, we have a realistic idea and goals to be able to carry us forward through the renovations, but also handle those challenges of the building and the campus for the next 20 years.
Candidate Hubbard.
I agree. One of the greatest challenges for any organization is funding, and we are working on that. We have a pretty sound budget at this time, which is allowing us to go forth with the reconstruction. Another challenge libraries face is space, which we talked about earlier, and coming up with the spaces for different groups. Also, keeping up with technology. As you all know, it's a vastly changing world, and it's become a prevalent issue at the library. So keeping up with technology is critical at this point in time.
Candidate Lowe?
I think the biggest challenge is the unknown, instability. We don't know what to expect over the next 3 years. I follow the news. I see what's going on in the world, regardless of what your political beliefs are. We're not in a stable time. So I think the biggest difficulty is going to be adapting to whatever comes our way. And whether it comes from inside the community or outside the community, we need to be able to adapt and deal with whatever comes our way and make sure that we are able to serve the community throughout the whole process, whether it's good or bad.
Thank you. Candidate Fasano.
Well, funding will always be a challenge. But I believe the library, and with the assistance and guidance of the Board of Trustees, has been a good steward of the budget to maintain the physical library as well as continue to offer services. But perhaps the overriding challenge will be maintaining intellectual freedom, much like Ron said. We don't know. Sorry. We don't know what the next 3 years will bring. And I think intellectual freedom and the challenges of the right to read and use resources might be at that top of the list and could be undermined within a blink of an eye.
Thank you. Well, it's time for closing statements. So, Candidate Hubbard, we'll begin with you for your 2-minute closing statement.
As a current trustee, I feel it's my responsibility to patrons to be as forthcoming as possible. Not only do I represent the library, I represent the taxpayers who fund our library, and I realize it's a critical time for maintaining fiscal management for everyone. I've also tried to stay on top of long and short-term responsibilities that may impact the library community and other factors that make our library so special. To date, our current board has exceeded in doing all of this. It is my belief that the trustees act as cheerleaders and promoters of Batavia Public Library, and we agree on a long-term vision that will carry us through the future. It isn't just about a book collection. It's about people and how we can best serve them. This is my goal as a trustee.
Candidate Lowe, your 2-minute closing statement.
Thank you for allowing me to share my vision for the Batavia Public Library. Over the years, I've worked tirelessly to build bridges in our community. Whether through the PTO, the school board, or community groups like the Historical Society or BCDI. I believe the library is more than just a building. It's a reflection of our values as a community. It's a place where everyone, regardless of background, can find resources, connection, and belonging. As a trustee, I will listen to the voices that are often overlooked, ensure our tax dollars are used wisely, and advocate for programs that meet the diverse and ever-changing needs of our residents. With my experience, my dedication, and my love for this community, I am ready to serve you and ensure our library remains a vibrant, inclusive space for all. Before I close, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this event, all the candidates for taking the risk to run, and the community for giving us the trust and opportunity to represent you. Thank you for your time, your trust, and a chance to serve. Let's build a stronger community for everyone in Batavia together. Aim high, vote low. I had pulled an old one.
That took me a minute. Candidate Fasano, your 2-minute closing statement.
Library trustees, although we are elected, we serve on a volunteer basis. I keep asking for that paycheck. It hasn't arrived. That said, we are equally invested in the well-being of the library, as is our community, all of you, and our professional staff. We are invested because the library is everyone's place to learn, to gather, to find resources that help stir emotions, uncover new ideas, offer connections to the past, or just provide a pause in the day. I'm following my passion for the library while giving back to the community by serving as a library trustee. I am hopeful that I will be able to continue to do so. We have much left to be done, and I want to be there to see it to the end.
Thank you. And Candidate Ford, your 2 minutes.
Oh, very well said, and I totally agree. All of these accomplishments were a combination of staff and the board. The existing board works very well together, and this is why we've been able to accomplish so much in so little time. I have gone into a meeting on a few occasions thinking I would vote one way, but after thoughtful and respectful discussions, my mind was changed and we were able to vote on a consensus for a majority of our votes. These accomplishments and working to achieve what is best for the library and best for the community, sometimes a balancing act, and seeing the library's renovations through to completion is why I am seeking re-election for Batavia Public Library Trustee. Thank you.
Please join me in thanking the candidates for being here tonight and sharing their thoughts and ideas. Thank you. We'll take a few minutes to reset and have the school board forum. Thank you. Hi. Once again, I'm Barb Lymans from the Wheaton League of Women Voters and live in West Chicago. So I will not be able to vote for any of the candidates participating tonight. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that neither supports nor opposes candidates or parties for any office. Providing forums is a major mission of the League of Women Voters so citizens can become better informed about the issues facing their community and to become better acquainted with candidates running for office. The format tonight is a candidate forum and not a debate. Candidates are expected to accurately represent the facts, and their responses reflect their own views and opinions. We do hope that the candidates will speak of their own goals and plans and refrain from speaking about other candidates or what another candidate has or has not done. The candidates will begin in alphabetical order with their 2-minute opening statements. Then they will alternate the order in which they answer questions for 1 minute. After the question portion of the forum, each candidate will give 2-minute closing statement. Members of the league will act as timers. Should a candidate exceed the time limit, I will ask them to finish their sentence and move on to the next candidate. To our audience, I would ask that those in attendance to please turn off your cell phones and other electronic devices. I would also ask that you be respectful and refrain from applauding or in other ways demonstrating support or opposition of a candidate. And finally, to the candidates, I would like to say on behalf of everyone here how appreciative we are that you are not only willing to serve in office, but who agreed to be here tonight. So let's get started. Candidate Curtis, you have 2 minutes for your opening statement. Oh, Curtis, sorry. Candidate Garrels.
Good evening. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum. My name is Kristen. I was born and raised in Iowa, and I'm a proud product of public education. I have degrees in art and anthropology from Luther College, and I've lived in Batavia for 11 years. I have 2 fifth graders at HC Storm, twins, and an 8th grader at Rotolo. Soon after moving to Batavia, I joined the Batavia Mothers Club Foundation, a local nonprofit with a mission to improve the lives of local children. I've been an active member and board member since then, taking on a variety of roles, including board president. While with Batavia Mothers Club, I took joy in knowing that our efforts helped support local kids, many of them Batavia Public School students. I've decided this is my last year with Batavia Mothers Club, but I want to continue to have a positive impact on our Batavia students, and that's why I'm running for school board. As a board member, I want to ensure that all students have the support and opportunities they need to thrive.
Thank you. Candidate Kilberg?
Thank you. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum, my fellow candidates for electing to try to serve our community, and to all who are here participating in this event. My name is Aaron Kilberg, and I am running for a second four-year term on the BPS 101 School Board. I am currently the board vice president. A little bit about me. My family moved from Iowa to the Fox Valley in 1987, and I have been a resident of Batavia since the fall of 2003, when my wife Kathleen and I bought our first house from a Batavia school teacher. We have 3 children who have attended Batavia schools. All attended J.B. Nelson Elementary on the east side of town. My daughter Emma is a graduate of Batavia High School and is currently a freshman at the University of Missouri. My son Jake is a sophomore at Batavia High School, and my youngest Lillian is a 6th grader at Rotolo Middle School. I work in the field of commercial construction for NIPCO as a Midwest commercial sales manager. My wife Kathleen is a physical therapist. I am passionate about our community, and I'm passionate about our schools, and I look forward for the opportunity to answer your questions this evening.
Thank you. Candidate Meadows?
Hello, my name is Craig Meadows. I am a 20-year resident of just outside Batavia. I live in the unincorporated county area of Kane County, outside in Mill Creek. It's one of the things about me that kind of drove me a little bit to kind of participate. I feel like Batavia, the city itself, has kind of adopted me and my family as kind of adopted members of the Batavia family. But if you've paid attention to some of the previous school board meetings, I often talk about not just Batavia proud, but Bulldog proud. There's a lot, about 20% of the students and families in this school district do not actually live in Batavia. So it's one of the things I've been really kind of aware of as we continue to look and talk about things as a district. As a part of that 20 years, before that, I bounced around. One of the other library candidates up here spoke about being in the life in the military. She moved a lot more than I did, so I feel for her. I lived about every 4 years, and I tend to get a 4-year itch. But I have managed to stay here for about 20 years. In that time, my 2 boys, Aiden and Riley, have gone through the entire public school district system here, and we're very proud of that. One last little bit about me. While Chris Lowe is a recovering, or how did you put it? Recovering architect. I am still an architect, so I haven't figured out your part yet, Chris. And I work a lot with schools, libraries, and other municipal bodies, so I see boards and how effective board leadership needs to occur. So I look forward to having the conversation here today, even if it's a bit one-sided, and thank you for your time.
Candidate Swisicki? Did I say your name right?
I was waiting for what you would do with that. Yes, Swisicki.
Swisicki?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. I am not from Iowa. My dad was born in Iowa, so there's my Iowa fun fact out of the way. I'm actually a proud product of Fox Valley Public Education, having been born in Elgin, raised in South Elgin, and attending schools in both. I moved to Batavia 3 years ago, and both my kids attend Louise White School. They love it, and we love living here. I volunteer weekly with at-risk middle and high schoolers in the Fox Valley. I serve on leadership for Batavia Community Diversity Initiative. I serve on the Batavia Plan Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals. And I attend all school board meetings, either in person or virtually, as a curious parent. I see opportunities for more transparency in the school district, better communication, advancement for our incredibly talented teachers, and more learning about supporting all students and their lived experiences. I believe a board member's job is to synthesize the wants and needs of the public, the students, and the teachers within the guideposts of law and policy. And I want all kids to have access to the same educational experience, all teachers' talents to be utilized, and all parents to feel heard. I believe in Batavia to achieve the highest standards, and we already do in so many ways, and I would be honored to be a part of that.
Thank you. Our first question will start with candidate Garrels. Am I saying that correctly?
Girls, yes.
Girls. Okay, thank you. This audience has given you all some tough questions, so we'll dig right in, okay? In the last election, the BPS 101 referendum did not pass. How would you prioritize the funds the school district has now as a result?
I attended most of the community meetings regarding the referendum. It was actually the planning before the referendum. So I feel like I have a pretty strong idea of why the board chose the referendum presented. So I was disappointed that it didn't pass. I know that the board now has decided to focus on safe, dry, warm.
Close, but good enough.
So to basically focus in on those basic needs for all of our schools. I know my kids' elementary school, HC Storm, is slated for some renovations this summer, which is great. Safety is definitely an issue that we will have to address. It's going to be difficult to stay within budget given the long list of needs, but I'm excited to ask questions.
Candidate Kilberg.
So yes, the referendum, we had two failed referendums, one by a razor-thin margin, one by a larger margin. And so we have listened to the community when it comes to building new schools. And so we have pivoted to a plan we call Warm, Safe, and Dry, where we're prioritizing certain elements of improvement for our facilities. As Ms. Garrels mentioned, upcoming we have two schools, Louise White and HC Storm, who are going to be receiving upgrades to make the entrances more secure, make them more comfortable for our students. And we've also invested in other resources so that we can be more proactive in maintenance of our buildings. So fortunately, we're in a strong financial position. So right now with our plan, we can pay for this, but it's something that we're going to have to watch very prudently.
Candidate Meadows.
Yes, so I'm been a part of the board while we went through the entire referendum process. Will say that I was kind of disappointed that it didn't pass, mostly because of the strain it kind of puts on the rest of the district's finances. There were a lot of needs that are needed to be done, and there are a lot of aspects of it that will not be able to be met. So priority of the Warm, Safe, and Dry is exactly what the board came up with, worked with the staff and the administration and determined was the best route. What that effectively means is that we focus on safety, so which is a large part of the additions at the two schools. Warm and dry kind of go hand in hand. There's a lot of things like roofs and walls, and through really good stewardship, we're able to save up money and commit to still approximately $50 million over the coming years to be able to get that work done. But we will face some challenges regardless.
And Candidate Swisicki.
My children attend Louise White, so we also were disappointed with the referendum not passing. Indeed, building renovations need to happen there as well, and we are not currently totally sure when those will occur. In the intervening time, I have noticed this board have really tough conversations, prioritize really important things, and do the best they can with what they have. I also think our budget is quite well managed, and I've gotten a lot of information to that end. So I would look forward to being part of further discussions and keeping the kids warm, safe, and dry, and doing what we can with what we have.
Thank you. Candidate Kilberg, what do you believe should be the top priority when it comes to ensuring safety and security?
So my position on that has evolved. So I will say, I've said this at board meetings, the number one thing we need to do is when we drop our children off at school, they have to come back intact, emotionally and physically, and that's a big task. And so one of the number one things is making sure within reason our buildings are hardened and secure. We have secure entrances, which we're now doing. But the other thing when it comes to security is cybersecurity. Because so much of our lives now are in the virtual world, and everyone has a Chromebook that's in Batavia. And so we have a very robust team to make sure that when they're online, our students are also safe. and they're not being attacked or solicited with people with bad intentions. And so I'm confident in our team that we made it a priority, and we're looking at it from different aspects.
Candidate Meadows, your thoughts?
In my work, working with school districts and libraries and other, this is a very high priority across all of those levels. I will echo Mr. Kilberg's statements about cybersecurity. It's one of the things that kind of scares and concerns me the most moving on, that with, making sure that AI is a way and is used effectively and safely by our students. From a physical safety perspective, the one thing that I will credit the most, and I will say that I think it's the biggest part of our teachers. I think in a lot of ways, they're the first group that makes sure that our students on a day-to-day basis feel safe and feel secure, regardless of whatever's happening in the world outside of them. Because I think in a lot of ways, that sense of safety and security is one that allows them to kind of be educated without worrying about a lot of things. The board can look at making sure people can't get into the buildings and everything else, but those are things that are almost easy to do if we have the money, and we're working really hard to do that. But in the end, having our teachers be aware of our students' lives is really important to be able to get that done.
Candidate Swisicki?
Obviously, secure entrances are a big part of student security. One thing people may not realize is a big part of security is social emotional learning for the grown-ups in the situation. How to spot at-risk kids, how to spot at-risk situations, and how to intervene appropriately to make sure that all students stay safe during the school day. In addition to that, community education in terms of what keeps students safe at home and therefore what translates to the school environment as well.
And Candidate Gerelsen.
It's always interesting going last. I think the security of our buildings is very important, not just the entrances, but again, having experience with HC Storm and having a circle drive entrance and exit, single exit and exit, it causes issues. We need to continue to stay on top of that and explore ways to deal with those kinds of situations. I also think that safety, our kids in school need to feel safe, and that's not necessarily always about the building. Sometimes the building isn't what causes them to feel unsafe. It's other classmates or situations that they might find themselves in, and that's something that it's very near and dear to my heart because I've had to deal with some situations with my own kids feeling unsafe at school.
Thank you. It leads into the next question, and we'll start with Candidate Meadows. How will you foster a sense of belonging for all students in BPS 101? And especially with an emphasis on how does the board plan to address bullying? And so Candidate Meadows.
Yes, thank you very much. So it's one of the kind of largest topics we've been talking about on the board as of late. There is a lot of kind of sensitivity around it. There's a lot of concern about it. And it's one of the items that I think me personally, I want to make sure that we do have those conversations. I think we can't talk enough about it in a lot of ways, but in some ways we need to make sure we're effective. The board has to manage its resources. I think one of the ways that we can do that is helping empower and make sure the policies are in place to allow for teachers to be able to do that work, because I think that's where a lot of it starts. But I think those policies and procedures need to support that effort. I think from a bullying perspective, my wife has made a statement about a number of things, but every bullying incident is different, and you need to treat them somewhat uniquely, as I understand it. And so I think being able to be awareness and understanding where we really sit overall from the extent of that issue is really important for us to know at this point in time.
Candidate Swisicki.
I would say that bullying instances are usually not very different. Bullying revolves around an imbalance of power. And that is one of the most important things to know about bullying. I think the most important thing is to listen to and believe the kids and the teachers that are coming to the school board and conveying their experiences. There are lots of restorative justice, restorative practice organizations that can lead schools down a path of having a healthier culture around power and anti-bullying measures, and I would be in favor of things like that.
Candidate Girls?
So I actually started going to board meetings and watching board meetings several years ago and was impressed by young students coming to board meetings, high schoolers, talking to the board about their experiences with bullying and harassment. And yet we still have issues. I think the board has done a lot to discuss the issue. I think at this point we need to have some solid plans. And I think making those plans accessible to everyone, teachers, parents, administration, and then holding the administration accountable for following up on those plans and using data to make sure that we're actually making a difference.
And Candidate Kilberg?
Thank you. So yes, it has been a topic of discussion. It's something we're taking very seriously. We're listening to the community. I think we've taken some steps to try to make progress. One is just talking about understanding the perspective of those who are being bullied, who feel like they don't have a voice, trying to elevate that so we can understand their position. We're trying to work more closely with the teachers union and make sure that we're on the same page. We're being more transparent in the process when a bullying incident occurs so all parties understand how it will work. I'm on the policy committee for the school board, and we've reviewed it to make sure that it's robust and it's doing what we want. And we are trying to be transparent. We had a recent report where on a regular basis, we are going to review the data to see how many bullying incidents we have, how we're trending, and see how we continue to improve on that. So we're going to have eyes on this from an analytical standpoint as well.
As a follow-up question, what specific strategies are currently being used to implement restorative practices within our schools, and how are they being measured for their effectiveness in addressing school conflicts and improving overall school climate? I'll read it one more time. What specific strategies are currently being used to implement restorative practices within the schools, and how are they being measured for their effectiveness in addressing student conflicts and improving overall school climate? And that will start with you, Candidate Swisicki.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the first part of the question one more time?
Sure. What specific strategies are currently being used to implement restorative practices?
As far as I can tell, and I've been attending board meetings for several years now, about 3, I have not heard of nor seen nor experienced any restorative practices being used within the district. I also know that the data surrounding bullying has not been made public. It's not currently on the website, and I've asked for it several times as a parent, and it has not been shared with me. So I would say that those are areas for improvement in Batavia Public Schools. And I would be behind any restorative justice practices that would be available and that the board would be willing to participate in.
Candidate Girls, your thoughts?
Could you repeat that one more time? I know you've said it a couple times already.
What specific strategies are currently being used to implement restorative practices within our schools, and how are they being measured for their effectiveness in addressing school conflicts and improving overall school climate?
I wish that I could answer this question better because I don't know what strategies are being used. And I think that's part of the issue is that there's been a lot of talk, and I appreciate that. I know we need to talk about things to get to the point where we're fixing them. I would like more transparency, and I like Ms. Swisicki said, I would welcome having an outside person come in and review things if that's necessary.
Thank you. Candidate Kilberg?
Okay. So we have taken some concrete steps. One of them is we have reviewed the policy. The board governs through its policy, and through the policy committee, we have looked at it to make sure that it's robust within the law and allows us to do what we need to do for the school to function properly. Our teachers have gotten training on bullying, to how to identify it, how to cope with it. We're trying to be more transparent in the process, so once a bullying incident is reported, both the person who has been bullied and accused of bullying understands how the process will work. And we've pushed for a follow-up process. So after it has been adjudicated and possibly punishment has been or not doled out, we will follow up with both parties within a certain period of time to see how they are doing. So once an incident occurs, we are not leaving them alone. We are following up to make sure how the child is doing and if they need any other resources.
Thank you. Candidate Meadows.
Everybody up here has, said some really good things, and they're entirely accurate. The restorative practices and strategies, one of the tough parts of being a board member is we're at a level of policy and how things are actually enacted and done. We need to just make sure that they're implemented and policy is met. Restorative practices is something that's kind of been a hallmark, and and we don't always hear about how those individual elements are done, because in some way we also have to be impartial and separate from the system, because sometimes those rise up to the level of the board that disciplinary actions may have to happen on one side or the other, and we have to be impartial to that process. So sometimes it's a bit difficult for us to work through that and kind of feel the transparency. That being said, there have been a lot of discussions, and I think there are a lot of things that have come out of it. One of them is there's been a little bit of trying to help understand and maybe create kind of a checklist almost, or a pathway, so that if an incident occurs, everybody kind of understands what those points are. It's not a perfect thing yet. The administration's working on it, but it's something in progress.
Thank you. Our next question will start with candidate Garrels. What is BPS School Board doing to support and encourage students to follow a career path in the trades?
That's actually something I've been excited to see is there is less of a focus on making sure everyone goes to college. I know that there are programs for a variety of trades that they have relationships with Wabanzi and another school that I can't think of off the moment. But I think that is wonderful. I think that finding kids' passions and giving them opportunities to follow those passions is exactly what the school should be doing.
Thank you. Candidate Kilberg.
So this is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. Like I said, I work in commercial construction, and I have a very tight relationship with Local 130, which is the plumbers union in Chicagoland, and Pipe Fitters 597, which is the largest pipe fitter union in the country. Just on Friday, I trained 54 second-year apprentices on how to solder pipe. And what I love about Batavia is we are encouraging those pathways. So we have collaborations with those unions, the painters unions, where the kids will actually take bus rides to go to the union, learn, experience the facility, learn about this career path, the opportunity. And we are doing real-world opportunities here in town. If you've gone to the boardwalk shops, students participate in the construction of those buildings under the supervision of teachers and mentors. So it's something I wanted us to continue to encourage, but I think we're definitely on the right path.
Candidate Meadows.
There's a couple of items around that. I too work with a lot of trades in my job, and there's a real need in the community for people that are interested and have a passion for working in the trades and to working on all kind of other than college career paths, let's say. I'm going to tell a little story about something that really struck me a while ago, which is when my oldest son was graduating and they bring everybody up and they kind of talk about the scholarships and everything that they're getting. I was really enthusiastic, and keep in mind, this is almost 6 years ago at this point. They celebrated the fact that the kids were getting either a certificate in welding or a scholarship to go to Wabanzi for cosmetology. I mean, just amazing levels of celebration. I think that's one way we can really do that. Additionally, the current board has a position that sits on the various technical schools and the Wabanzi so that they can participate in that conversation and bring those resources to the district.
Candidate Sawicki.
There you go. As someone who is from a family rife with tradespeople, I think this is a bright spot for the district, certainly. I mentioned that I volunteer with middle and high schoolers from Batavia, and they go on and on about the electives and opportunity type classes offered in this area. So I would do everything to continue to support efforts.
Thank you. The next question, we'll start with candidate Kilberg. And who should be making the decisions of what the curriculum is in the classroom?
So I'm not a curriculum expert, so I think we need to rely on our experts and our teachers. So we're going to collaborate with our teachers and our administrators based off guidelines through national and state standards to develop a robust curriculum. I think that we need to be challenging our students and maximizing our resources so they are being pushed to reach their full potential. So that's why I think should be developing curriculum.
Candidate Meadows, who do you think should be making the decisions of what the curriculum is in the classroom?
One thing I'm really proud of that I see happening in the district is the decision-making process almost at all levels and really about all things is extraordinarily collaborative. There's committees that are set up specifically around curriculum. That gives an opportunity for educators, staff, administrators, and others to participate in a process of determining what that should look at. But just like Mr. Kilberg said, the state mandates a lot of things that we have to do. And so that's part of it. But also a part of that process is an ability for parents to become a part of that process, review documentation, review textbooks, review things that are put forward. So it's really a big collaborative effort that I think should be maintained and really kind of pushed forward and made people aware that that happens.
Candidate Swisinski.
I would agree with that. I think that should be a collaborative effort, mainly between teachers, students, and parents, obviously within the confines and guidelines of the law, which the board is very well versed on and updated on by the administration, I have to say. But I think at the end of the day, a school district exists because we want our kids to be educated and we want our teachers to be happy. So I think allowing for teachers to lead those types of discussions is the best approach, and getting feedback from the students as well who have to be in those classes, and for their parents for support at home as well.
Thank you. Candidate Garrels.
I'm going to echo a lot of what my fellow candidates have said. However, I do think that Batavia Public Schools could do a better job of leaning on the teachers. The teachers are the ones that are in the classrooms. I think that giving them a voice in what is taught within the confines of what is required by the state goes a long way towards making them feel like they have a say in their employment and what they teach and if they're supported.
Thank you. Candidate Meadows, we'll begin with you with this round of questions. What is your position on the role of athletics at BHS?
The role of athletics. There's actually a thing we've been talking about a lot, and it specifically kind of rotates around attendance numbers and making sure kids attend schools. So kids that participate in extracurriculars are far more likely to feel included and feel like they belong and will attend schools. And a big avenue of that at Batavia is athletics. I say that as a strong and devout marching band parent, just to be clear. So I think they have a role. I think they teach kids a lot about teamwork. And as a soccer coach, all the way through my kids going into high school, it taught them more about being a community member, more about being a person in our world and being effective collaborators on things. And I think that that's something that they learn a lot more in athletics than I think people would give credit to. So I think they should definitely be a continued part of it. And it doesn't hurt when the football team's so good. So.
Candidates with
So I think when you move to Batavia, you certainly learn about the athletic programs quickly and you hear about them frequently. I think they are great. I think they're inspiring for a lot of kids. Our neighbor is a football player and I love to see how amped up they all get as a team. I do think there's room for recognizing other types of activities. Not all students feel called to athletics. And I think there's a lot of opportunity to highlight all kinds of other student activities that are just as valuable as athletics, teach teamwork, teach civic responsibility and engagement. And so I would hope to be part of closing the gap in terms of just giving more recognition to the other types of activities there are as well.
Candidate girls.
I think athletics are great. As I said, I was an art major, so I definitely lean more towards the art, music. But my 8th grader did cross country. He loved it. He also plays cello. I think that it's best when we can give opportunities to all kinds of kids and support those activities. I know my 8th grader is excited about going to high school and all the clubs that are available. Right now in 8th grade, he's in the engineering and computer club. I think like I mentioned earlier, we need to find what our kids' passions are and encourage them in any way we can.
Candidate Kilberg.
So I love athletics, and I've suffered for it. If you see me limping, it's because I only have one ACL for playing football. But I would like to pivot away from athletics to just extracurriculars. And we have an amazing array of extracurriculars. So whether it be sports, music, art, as Ms. Garrell said, we recently had our freshman night. We have over 50 clubs at Batavia High School for kids to participate in. And if they want to join a new club, there's a pretty clear pathway for starting that. So the main thing is we want kids to feel connected, to have fun, to pursue their interest, and develop those skills of community, accountability, and hard work. And I think we're doing a good job of that.
Thank you. My son graduated from West Chicago playing football and never won a game in 4 years. I think it made him a better person.
If it helps, I didn't win a game my senior year of football either, so maybe it made me a better person.
We've had multiple questions about DEI and DEI initiatives. So I'm going to try and combine them into one question, and we'll start with candidates with Zicki. How will you protect DEI initiatives and continue advocating for greater representation within the faculty and staff at the student body, with emphasis in thinking about gender identity and bathroom access?
So I feel uniquely positioned to answer this question. My volunteer work weekly is with Belong Fox Valley, which serves queer youth. And I would say that any inclusion and equity efforts need to center the perspectives of the people that they are affecting. And therefore, I think any equity, inclusion, and diversity initiatives need to be taken on with trans kids at the forefront, with Black kids at the forefront, or whichever kids that we're focusing on. In terms of bathrooms, I just want to be very clear that I believe in every human being's right to go to the bathroom in a place that makes them feel comfortable. And I know a lot of districts around have tried a lot of very effective strategies, including single stall private bathrooms that have been immensely helpful and have not caused any issues.
Thank you. Candidate girls.
I would support all measures to support diversity, equity, and inclusion. I think, there are studies that have shown that Black students that have Black teachers, there are higher rates of graduation. There are studies that show that it does good work. The students at our school need to feel safe and included and like they belong. And part of doing that is providing them with safe spaces, safe groups where they can meet and share their experiences. And as far as the bathrooms go, there is state law that we need to provide bathrooms for everyone to use the bathroom that they choose. And that was one of the additional disappointments for me with the referendum not passing, is I felt like that was an opportunity where we could have addressed some of those building restroom issues by providing more single stall restrooms.
Candidate Kilberg.
So it comes to the bathroom issue, it's a matter of law, and we're going to comply with the law, so kids are going to have access. When it comes to diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's an ongoing discussion, struggle. I think we are taking positive steps. We have an equity committee, which is good, that's comprised of teachers and other voices. But I think really the big change has been we're viewing everything through an equity lens. And equity is not just gender or race. We have over 30 languages in the community. We have kids with disabilities. Anytime I enter one of our buildings, I say, will a child be able to access this? And what I'm also realizing is that I have blind spots. We all do. And so when we're having these discussions, we need to have as many voices as possible so that we can understand their perspective and do the best we can. So again, everyone feels safe, has access, and can reach their full potential.
Thank you. Candidate Meadows.
I'm just going to tackle the bathroom comment at the beginning. I fully support the fact that everybody has a right to use whatever bathroom they feel comfortable in, and I recognize that there are people that may not feel comfortable that people are in bathrooms that they don't want them to be in, but there are actually other opportunities in single user bathrooms that are available and that teachers and staff can make available to students so they are comfortable. The other aspect of kind of that the district is doing from a DEI perspective, we do have an equity committee. We do have things that we're concurrently talking about. I really think one of my particular positions that I've been talking to the superintendent and others about is figuring out a way to infuse this equity discussion across all of our committees, not just in one committee. I want to be able to figure out a way that we can, so that when someone's at the resource committee and financials are looking at it for what do the school buses need. And one of the conversations that came up recently was being able to get activity buses through funding and working with other community organizations to allow access to those athletic programs or after school programs by getting them to where they need. That's a good example of something that occurred to address and work through that.
Thank you. Just as a sort of follow-up, what can be done to improve the representation of students of color or minority in the district's gifted programs? And we're going to begin with candidate Girls.
Could you repeat the question one more time?
What could be done to improve representation of students of color or minority students in the district's gifted programs?
I think we could probably do more outreach and talk to the teachers, talk to the students, see what they're interested in, find out what obstacles they may face that prevents them from studying or getting to the school when they need to get to the school, or there's just basic things that we need to make sure are happening. And I think talking to Black students, Black teachers, Latino students, Latino teachers, we need to go directly to the source and see if they have ideas for what we could do.
Candidate Kilberg.
So I would agree with that we need to listen to voices. One thing that we've been doing, if you've been following the school board, is we've been having presentations at the building, district, and within facility operations, and we're looking at data. And this is one of the things that's been highlighted. That's something we have to work on. It was kind of startling when we saw it. And I think it does begin with listening to voices, trying to understand those experiences, but then also as a district sort of evaluating how we're working with these kids, because sometimes it starts early, and there's other areas where other populations are misrepresented or disproportionately represented. And so I think the first thing is recognizing it's something that we need to work on, having data that we're visiting on a regular basis. And we recently completed a strategic plan, and making sure all kids have equal opportunity to opportunities is one of our strategic goals. And so we're going to infuse that in this situation and try to do better.
Candidate Meadows.
One of the things I've always been kind of proud of being a part of the Batavia School District is the fact that, and this happened with my own kids, they were not necessarily like from a gifted program, but let's just say AP classes or honor classes or whatever like that, right? Neither of my kids were in kind of like identified or hit the score marks in the elementary school to kind of get into those programs. But once they were able to get in high school, they were able to kind of choose their way to go in there. And in fact, one of my sons took a non-AP biology class and then decided it was more important for him to take an honors and AP class. What I mean by that is I think a lot of this is being able to focus, and this is my own personal opinion, I'm not an educator or anything else, is identifying kids that may have those aptitudes or may have those skills very young, and be able to kind of coach them up and work them through and make sure they have access and that they kind of create an environment of success for them to be able to feel comfortable in being able to kind of root for themselves, as it were.
Thank you. Candidates Week.
So I think it starts with being honest about data. I've requested data on this topic a number of times, and it has not been specifically provided to me. I have been able to parse out through various means that, like a lot of white dominant schools, Batavia over-reports Black and brown students for IEPs. So I think that's a real opportunity for bias training for the staff and the grown-ups in these situations. And I also think, again, it's important to pull Black students and their parents and Black teachers into the room, center them, ask them what's going on, and believe them when they tell us.
Thank you. We're going to shift gears a little bit and start with candidate Kilberg. How will the school board be addressing AI in this ever-changing technological environment?
So yeah, AI is a pretty hot topic in education right now. And I don't know if I have a great answer for you off the top of my head. All I know is that we're not going to turn a blind eye to it. We know it's here. We have to figure out a way to embrace it, incorporate it in a proper way. I mean, it's still a rapidly evolving technology, but we can't ignore it, and it is going to be a part of our lives moving forward. So I think partnering with the teachers union, hearing the voices of the community, we're going to figure out a way to incorporate it into the daily lives of our students in a productive way that still pushes them and makes them think, but lets them access a tool that is probably going to be a part of their lives moving forward.
Thank you. Candidate Meadows.
In a lot of ways, AI is a new technology. And if you don't pay attention to it, you're going to get left behind. A lot of ways, like if you remember, like when I was kind of growing up and my dad would tell me about how this calculator is going to make me lazy. I'm never going to be able to do math if I don't learn how to do it on a table. And I haven't done a table since then, so I figured out how to use a calculator. But what's really important about it is, and I attended a session because we go to kind of annual training that's kind of put on a state level, and I attended a session that our CFO was at. And one of the people there talked about a thing that I was really intrigued about, which was a very prescribed method that they collaborated with the technology department to be able to help students in collaboration with teachers understand when it was appropriate to use AI, when they shouldn't be using AI, and how to effectively make sure that they're not being duped or otherwise, misrepresenting information, because AI is not that smart these days. So it takes all information reports on whatever it is.
Candidate Swisicki.
I would agree with that largely. I think that it's important to stay on top of new technologies and to assess their effectiveness. I think it's also important to teach students and adults literacy around all kinds of technology. I think that it's good to use AI to guide, but I would be more in favor of using our actual minds, hearts, perspectives, visions, and ideas to push anything forward, any action.
And candidate Girls.
I heard recently, and I can't remember where I heard it, so I don't know that this was at Batavia schools, but there was a teacher who assigned her students to write a paper using AI, but then the students had to go and check the AI and make sure everything was accurate, which I thought was a very unique way of addressing the issue so that students could see that it's not always right. It's an evolving technology. I also had an interesting conversation with my son, who's an 8th grader, but an aspiring engineer. And we were talking about how there are some people that believe that a lot of these engineering jobs will be taken over by AI. And he started to panic a little bit. This is what I want to do with my life. So I think that because it's new and evolving, we need to stay on top of where it's going and make sure that our students are given opportunities within what we know about what it is and where it's going.
Thank you. Well, we have time for one more question, and it will begin with candidate Girls. Oh, I'm sorry, no, candidate Meadows. Sorry. Little bait and switch there. And the question is this: how will you work with other board members, particularly those you disagree with, to drive forward solutions and improvements for the district?
Really, the kind of most exciting thing about the board, and it's one of the things we've been really working on over the past couple of years, is making sure that we have more of our conversations and discussions. Nothing can happen behind the scenes, so you can't have any conversations with other board members like behind the scenes, because that's frankly a violation of state law. However, we want to make sure that conversation happens out front, because generally speaking, I don't come to my board position with a set of very specific ideals that I want to make sure occur. I want to make sure everybody's voices are heard. I wanted to make sure that everybody feels like they get to a point where if they don't agree with the situation, they understand the situation, because that's how I treat it, and I would hope everybody else gets a chance to feel that way. But it's collaborative, and there's been plenty of times that I will say, over the past couple of years in particular, that my mindset has shifted on a number of items, or at least I've become more aware of them than I was before. And I thank the other board members I'm currently with, and God willing, the ones I will have in the future. So thank you.
Candidate Suzuki.
Can you repeat the question for me, please?
How will you work with other board members, particularly those you disagree with, to drive forward solutions and improvements for the district?
So I have to say, as a regular attendee of board meetings, I do see the current board collaborating all the time and having difficult conversations in front of the community, and it is very impressive. I look forward to disagreeing and to speaking with people that I disagree with, because I think that is where learning happens. And ultimately, a school board and a school district is an educational, or is an institution of learning. And so I think that I'm excited to have all of these conversations, whether we agree or disagree, and to ultimately work together to make the best decisions we can for the students, the teachers, and the parents, and all the stakeholders of BPS 101.
Candidate Girls?
I think there's probably one thing we could all agree on, is that we're here because we care about the students at Batavia schools. As a member of the Mothers Club, we have moms from all over, from all walks of life. Some are working, some are stay-at-home moms. So I've got experience working with a wide variety of people. I think as long as we treat each other with respect when we're disagreeing, we should be fine.
And Candidate Kilberg, your thoughts?
So I think an important part of a governing body is different perspectives. Voices are respected, have vigorous but respectful conversations. I think the current board does a pretty good job of that. One concrete thing we've done is, I've always said our board meetings are a powerful mechanism for communicating with the district. And we need to be having as many of these conversations as we can. And we've added an agenda item called Board Matters. So if multiple board members sign a subject that they find complicated or we're struggling with, that's an opportunity for us to have an open discussion in the board meeting. And we've had a few good discussions that way. And, however the board is comprised, I think a strength of any board would be differing opinions, different vantage points. And so there will obviously be disagreement. But at the end, I think as long as we understand where everybody's coming from, are civil to each other, and then reach a majority decision, that's how we're going to move forward as a body.
Great. Well, now it's time for closing statements. I know you'd love for me to have more questions, but we now will begin with candidate Swisicki, and you have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Well, let me start by saying thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this, and to my fellow panelists for participating. Thank you all for attending, for hearing us out, coming to a community event, being curious, and voting informed. I hope to earn your vote on April 1st, and I hope you will reach out to me if there is anything that I didn't answer tonight. Good luck spelling Swisicki, but I am on Facebook, Katie Swisicki for BPS 101 School Board. So thank you.
And candidate, your 2-minute closing statement.
Thank you to everyone for coming, and thank you to the League of Women Voters. The recently adopted Batavia Public School Strategic Plan includes the following vision. We foster an environment of continuous improvement and student success and are recognized for our excellence. Our graduates will be curious, resilient, empathetic, and proactive contributors to society. As a school board member, I will listen and hear and ask questions and hold all of us accountable to that vision. We need to create an environment where all of our students feel welcome and supported, and where our teachers and staff are trusted to lead with their expertise and their hearts. Please vote for me in the April 1st election. If you are planning to be out of town for spring break, please make a plan to vote early, because the election is during spring break. And I also have a Facebook page, and I will just say, vote Kristen G for BOE.
That's a good one.
That's pretty good. Yeah. That's pretty good.
Candidate Kilberg, your 2-minute closing statement.
All right. So I also want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this event and all the work you do in creating a good public discourse. I want to thank my fellow candidates and any candidate in this community who chooses to get on a ballot and take an opportunity to serve the community. And I want to thank all who attended tonight on a rainy night or who are watching online for participating. I believe the job of a school board member is to help create the conditions necessary for success in the district. I want to do my part to empower students and teachers to achieve their potential, with the goal for every student who graduates from BPS 101 to leave with the skills necessary to be a productive contributor to our society. These are the qualities that I believe make me a good school board member. I am curious, I am ethical, I am collaborative, and I believe in actively seeking out different points of view or listening to people who disagree with me. I'm willing to put in the work to understand issues so I can make good decisions for the district and our community. I believe we need to live within our means. I believe in treating all people with respect. I believe in transparent and visible leadership. I believe in rolling up your sleeves and doing the hard work necessary to support our kids and our schools. But most of all, I believe in the students, families, teachers, staff, administration, and citizens of Batavia. When we work together, we can achieve great things. And I know this is true because I've seen it firsthand. So I am asking people to vote for Aaron Kilberg for the BPS 101 School Board on April 1st, or early if they want. Thank you.
And candidate Meadows, your 2-minute statement.
I will advise the other board member, other candidates here that if they get on the board, it's always tough to follow Aaron Kilberg on his closing comments. Watch a board meeting, you'll find out. You know what? I've spent a long time kind of in service to the community of not only Batavia, but of kind of the greater area. And really a lot of that I think of is of the Batavia School District community. Living outside of the city of Batavia, I coached soccer between both of my boys for probably close to, feels like about 15 years between the two of them. I worked on and with the marching band, so that and even still do. I help assist in designing the shows with the leadership of that group. It's something that's very near and dear to my heart, because I think in the end, the future of our society and the future of our culture is having well-rounded children, well-rounded students that have the right supports in place. I feel my boys are a great example of the success of Batavia. Things like the AP classes and the dual credit classes in particular have been amazing to assist my kids in being able to take classes that are really germane to their education. It didn't save me any money, but it's saving other people money because they get credit for college earlier. And both of my boys, as of right now, though they're not out of college, one is graduating law school soon, and the other one's in his second year of chemical engineering. And I thank Batavia School District, and I thank the teachers for that. I do see this as a continuation of my service to the district and to the community. I do hope you guys see that I too am collaborative, and that it means the most to me. And it's something that I really want to continue to give back. So please, if you are willing and interested, vote for me. I do not have a Facebook page. I do not have a website. Actually, I take that back. I have a Facebook page. So if you want to hunt me down, send me a friend invite. I don't usually accept them from people I don't know, but I'll make an exception for anyone that paid attention to this tonight. So thank you. Hey, bring it on. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. And once again, please join me in thanking the candidates for being here tonight and working together. And I'll turn the microphone back to Kelly.
My only question is, the four of you, I would also like to know what you're reading, because I already filled up my story graph from before, so before you leave, I would like to know what's on your lists. So as we wrap up tonight's forum, I do want to extend my gratitude to all the candidates for your participation and to the audience for your engagement. Your presence tonight demonstrates the importance of civic involvement and the desire for informed decision-making within our community. If your question was not asked tonight, we ask that you send them directly to the candidates. We also encourage you to keep asking questions, keep seeking information, and keep engaging with our candidates in the days leading up to the election. Remember, your vote is your voice, and it is vital that you make it heard. A very special thank you to the Batavia City Hall for hosting us again, and to all those who made this forum possible, including BATV, our dedicated volunteers and supporters, including AAUW, who is here tonight with us. I forgot to thank you at the beginning, but thank you very much for your partnership. And I hope this evening has provided valuable insights to aid you in making informed choices on Election Day or before. Our next forum is February 3rd at the St. Charles Library, where we will host the candidates for the St. Charles Library Board and School Board. Early voting begins March 7th, and Election Day is April 1st. Check our League of Women Voters Central Kane County website, the Illinois Voter Guide, and the Kane County Clerk's website for more information. Thank you again for being here. Safe travels home, and let's continue to engage in the meaningful dialogue as we work together to strengthen our communities.